Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. Now, in today's video, we're going to look at a certain tier 10 tank. Yes, looking at all the tier 10s. Now, there is quite a few tier 10s in the game, like loads. There's quite a few tech tree tanks. Obviously, we have all the tech tree branches, and of course, there's quite a few premiums, collectibles, etc, etc. So, looking through all of the tier 10 tanks, which one is the worst? Which one is just the worst tier 10 tank in the entire game? It's a very, very hard choice now. Very hard choice. Once upon a time, a year or so ago, I would have probably chose something like the E4. But Wargaming buffed it, and now they buffed it. It is actually a fantastic tank. You've got other tanks, you know, the WZ1211, you know, not a bad tank, but I don't think it is absolutely fantastic. You've got all these tanks, the Patton, the M60, you can say, okay, it's not the greatest compared to the others. E5, you know, you've got so many tanks out there. The Object 140 maybe, even something like the IS-4, it isn't as great as they once was. The Object 263 isn't as great as it once was. But there is one tank in particular that I've stated it isn't strong. It isn't that strong. Obviously, people can have good games, and you can get the worst tank in the world and people will still have a good game in it. But looking through all the tier 10 tanks over time, there is just one tank for me that just stands out, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I'd honestly believe the AMX 30B is the worst tier 10 tank in the game. Now, it is a shame because I don't mind the AMX 30B, and I'm not sitting here saying that the tank is shit. Like, I don't think there is actually any tier 10 tank that is absolutely shit. But looking through them all, one of them has to be the worst. And unfortunately, for my point of view, it is the AMX 30B. So we're going to have a look at a game someone done with the 30B, and we're going to have a look at its stats and just explain why I feel it is the worst tank in the game. So armor-wise, doesn't have any armor. I mean, the turret, you can actually get bounces on that turret. Even though it says 120, you can actually get bounces on that turret. However, you do have a big hatch on top. The hatch is troll. You can actually get bounces from that hatch, but you can also be penetrated as well. Hull armor, non-existent, nothing. DPM, 3,129. You can get this up a little bit if you do run the rammer to 3,365. So even though it is still good DPM, it isn't as good as most of the other mediums in tier 10. So your reload is 6.24 seconds, penetration 250 on your AP, 295 on your heat. Again, you can get that up a little bit if you want to run the calibrated shells, which I would probably recommend. So you do have nice alpha at 350, and your heat is 300, HE is 400. Aim time is okay at 3, and your dispersion is okay at 0.307. You do have 10 degrees of gun depression with a top speed of 62 kilometers per hour. I think the tank does look good. I'm not a lover of the legendary camouflage. I think it looks hideous, it really does. So Wargaming, take a look at this camouflage and bring us a better camouflage for the 30B. Now, as I've said, I'm not sitting there saying that the 30B is absolutely shockingly bad. You need to never buy it, because honestly, I do often give away AMX 30Bs in tier 10. And again, I'm not saying that the tank is really bad. I'm just saying it's not as good as the rest. Again, there are a lot of tier 10s out there, and everyone has their own opinion, and you guys might absolutely love the AMX 30B, and that's fine if you do. That is absolutely fine if you do. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but I want to talk about the tank actually, because some of you that have been around the channel for a long time will probably already have known this, that the AMX-30B, now some of us are testers, so I'm a tester. I test new tanks in the game along with all the other community contributors, and we've done that for a very, very long time. In fact, the AMX-30B was the first test tank that I have ever played. Now, when this was a test tank, it was broken as hell. Honestly, like, it was insane. The reload was about 5 seconds, but you had the high alpha as well. So the DPM was absolutely insane. The on-the-move accuracy was insane as well. So you could be flying at top speed, take a shot at someone, and it will just hit the enemy team. So yeah, the on-the-move accuracy was absolutely insane. DPM was absolutely insane as well. So obviously we tested it. It was way too strong. So Wargaming did not release the tank when they were supposed to. But what they did instead, they nerfed the tank and they put it out for test again. So they dropped the reload a little bit. That's pretty much all they done. So instead of having like a 5.2 second reload or whatever it was, they gave it, I think it was like a 5.8 or a 5.9. So yes, the DPM did drop a little bit. But it was still strong. It was still way too strong. So then we had to test it for the third time, and that is what you see basically in front of you now. But when it was first released, like, it was a nice tank, you know. People didn't know how to deal with it. Yes, it doesn't have armor, but because you have a big hatch on top, people automatically just aims for that big hatch because they don't see it as a sort of red. But yeah, they soon know it when they shoot the hatch and it bounces. I've had a shot before where I've been shot from a Jagdpanzer E100 and a Death Star at the exact same time, at the exact same spot, and they both bounced. And yeah, I was surprised, and you're not going to do that every time, but the fact that you can get a bounce on that hatch is I suppose, a lot better than if it was really, really, really weak. But yeah, just don't rely on that armor because you will be penetrated. If people aim at the right position, you will be penetrated. So do be careful. I really do wish that Wargaming was going to, or does, buff the AMX-30B because it is one of the mediums that have kind of been left alone and never really touched, to be honest. You know, you see these E50Ms, the T62s get absolutely, you know, buffed down to the ground. And you get the AMX-30B that just sort of sits there and does nothing. Actually, probably collects dust in people's garage. Because even though I don't mind the tank, I don't mind the tank at all. But it isn't a tank that I sit there and think, you know what, I'm going to play the 30B today. Yeah, it's probably the last option. When it comes to medium tanks, it probably is the last option. It's the least enjoyable tank, and again, as I've said, it doesn't mean that you can't perform well in the tank, just like our guy does here. He performs actually really, really well in the tank, but I still think it is the worst, not just the worst premium in the game, or the worst tier 10 overall. Like, when it comes to premiums, medium tanks, I just think overall it is the worst tier 10 tank in the entire game. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think is the worst premium, or sorry, the worst tank in tier 10? I know a lot of people will choose tanks like the M60, but I just feel you could do a lot more in the M60 than you can the AMX-30B. But I'd love to know all your opinions. Let's see what opinions. I mean, some of you might choose the Death Star, some of you might choose the E100, who knows? That's the best thing about having your own opinion, and I'd love to listen to your own opinion. So what do you guys think is the worst tier 10 tank to ever come in Blitz? Hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm Meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye. With